Well, hey, and welcome back to another episode of Heart and Health Wellness. I'm your host, Dr. Melissa Welch, and I'm so glad that you are here because today is a very timely episode with back to school coming back up. If you are listening to this when it is released in July, or maybe you're just now getting to it and it's August, you are probably already feeling this. And that is the low, just kind of like hum of dread almost for back to school. But maybe sometimes it's also excitement to get back into a normal routine. But for everyone, back to school anxiety, whether that's nerves or excitement, there's a buzz about it. People have a certain way they feel about going back to school. I always remember back to school as the time when we would go shopping and I would get new clothes for the school year. So that always made me really happy. I also was obsessed with getting my planner out and logging all of the due dates for the school year. And there's so much structure to it. And I loved that. I wish my life still had that. But when you're an adult, that part goes away. Anyways, when you're a mom, it's a totally different ball game. And for those of you who know me personally, or you've been listening for a while, you know that my little one isn't quite there yet. However, I work with a lot of moms who have little ones in elementary school or even middle school. And so there's a lot of craziness that comes around with this time of year of getting ready to go back to school. So if your kids are a little bit older than that toddler stage or new baby stage and they are in school, I want to just tell you something very specifically that I think a lot of people don't say out loud because they don't want to be portrayed as being seen as negative. But I think there's a balance of being honest and truthful about how things are and still being optimistic about what can be. You were probably told that life gets easier once they start school again because it frees up your time. Someone else is taking care of them during the day. Your routine is back on. And so there's a lot of assumption there that once you get past the baby stage and the toddler years that are absolutely crazy, shout out to anyone who has a toddler. Mine's napping right now, so I can actually get something done. Anyways, once they pass that part and they go to kindergarten, there's this belief that you would finally be able to catch your breath and relax a bit. And unfortunately, when they started school and it didn't get easier, it just changed and it was a different kind of hard, maybe even harder in some ways. There's a lot of confusion or shock in that moment because nobody warned you that it was going to be that way and you thought it was going to be the opposite. So it's just kind of internally confusing of what is going on. How did I miss this? I thought it was supposed to get simpler, especially as a working mom who's trying to figure out the schedule when they're not in school and all that. Anyways, that is exactly what this episode is about today, because the back to school season for working moms, especially those of you who are in healthcare, education, and other helping professions, is one of the most emotionally loaded times of the whole year, where we have heightened anxiety or heightened excitement and maybe sadness or grief if this is the first time they're going to kindergarten. Anyways, there's just a lot of big emotions from you and your little one. And sometimes that continues on throughout the year, but it's really big at the beginning of the year when everyone's going back to school. So I want to talk about why that is and what you can actually do about it that isn't going to make you feel even more overwhelmed. I'm going to try and break it down as simple as I can to make it doable for you. That's what we're all about here. So anyway, so get comfy. We're going to be here for probably about 30 minutes. If you're driving on your way to work, I see you. I understand that commute. But if you're doing this while you're doing dishes or nighttime working out or going for a walk or whatever, I hope it's helpful to you and that you enjoy. So I want to start by naming what's actually happening right now, because I think a lot of working moms that I talk to carry this just kind of weight or this tension, and they don't take the time to actually pause and think about what's going on for them internally that's leading to that feeling. Because we're always so go, 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 and it doesn't feel like we have the time to slow down to really reflect and figure out what's going on for us emotionally or mentally that's leading to those physical symptoms. Or even if you are, maybe it's hard to put words to it. Okay. So I want to talk through what the research actually says about this transitional point in life or this season that we all go through. And I'm going to focus on one that's from the Center for American Progress. And it found that in the US, school schedules are fundamentally misaligned with work schedules. That's not a surprise to you, right? Anyone who knows that they have to be at work from 8 to 5 and the kids don't have to be at school from 8 to 5 knows that there's a challenge both before work and after work, or before school and after school. It's difficult. I don't know who came up with it. Somebody who didn't have to take the kids to school and pick them up. That's who came up with it. Anyways, the school day often ends at 3. I remember when I was in school, my parents had to have me in an after school care program. The YMCA was what I went to when I was in elementary school, and it was great. But I also recognize now as an adult that my parents had to do that because they had to be at work. And sometimes those things also cost money. And so there's additional childcare costs. So childcare costs don't go away just because they're not in daycare anymore. And so that can also cause stress. And it often falls entirely on your shoulders to figure it out. And I'm not saying partners don't do anything to help. They certainly do. But a lot of times you're the one who's doing the logistics for all of this. But the piece that got me was that 2 researchers who wrote this book called Maternal Optimism, spent years studying working moms. And what they found was that a lot of mothers spend the baby and toddler years telling themselves that they just need to get through this part because it will get easier and it'll feel better once they start school. And so they use kindergarten as a kind of like finish line in their brains, the kind of light at the end of the tunnel. And so they say, I just have to get through this difficult season and then it will ease up. This is where we have to put in the long hours, the hard work, and it's going to ease up and get lighter. And it'll feel so much better when we just get to kindergarten. Then their child starts school and it doesn't ease up at all. It just changes what kind of hard looks like, what shape it is. It's no longer the same kind of hard, but it is still absolutely difficult. And so now you're doing the after school activities, the plays, the recitals. You have to manage school pickup timelines and make sure that it matches up with your own work window. And then there's sick days, which is what we're dealing with today, which is why we're home during the day. Anyways, it doesn't matter. We've got sick days, which you hoped would get better because they supposedly got a great immune system in daycare. And yet now they're in school with new kids. And so they're sick again. And there's the pressure to be involved in the PTA. And then there's the after school logistics and the summer camp costs that nobody budgeted for throughout the year. And you thought that daycare was the expensive season and that their little crazy emotions when they were toddlers was the hard part. But it's just a whole new kind of hard. So one of the researchers said that working parents are trying to be active caregivers and high performers at work and engaged school citizens. But the truth is that something has to give. It is darn near impossible to do all of that well and still be taking care of yourself. So I want to add to that for working moms in helping professions specifically, the something that has to give is almost always yourself. So that might be your sleep, where you're staying up late to get things done or getting up early to get everybody taken care of. It might be your health, where you're not cooking the healthiest meals or taking the time to even be able to cook because you're just doing fast food or whatever works for the logistics of the day. Plus, if you're not sleeping, then your physical health isn't going to be great either. You may not have time for working out. Maybe you thought that would come back once they started school, and sure enough, that's not back. It might also be your sense of who you are outside of the roles that you are performing every single day. That part tends to get lost. And I want to make a point here. It's not that we dislike the roles that we are performing every single day. We like being a mom. We like being involved in all the things. But sometimes it means that you're not getting to connect to that version of you that you haven't seen in a while. And then there's also what I see on online dialogue conversations. What am I looking for? On Reddit. And I saw one on Reddit this week that I wanted to talk about. There was a mom who posted about back to school mental load, and the responses from all of the other moms were really just pouring in very quickly. So it was clearly a topic that resonated with everyone. And moms were saying things like, I feel like I'm doing everything, but I'm not doing any of it well. Someone said that their husband was blissfully unaware of what this season actually costs her. And someone else said they were really thankful for the thread and that they needed to read it before they go back to school or before their kids go back to school, just for kind of a reality check of what are some realistic expectations for the back to school season. And that's not to be pessimistic, just to be realistic and make sure that we're not glamorizing it to the point that we are disappointed when it comes around and it's harder than we expected. The mom who feels like she needed to read it before she goes back is exactly who I made this episode for. So you might be the mom who's about to go back and you need someone to tell you what is actually coming and how to handle it so that you are fully aware and prepared and ready to go, because it's going to be hard. And there's going to be so much fun in it too. I don't want to be just negative. There's so much fun and excitement and all the things and newness and all the new learning and the cute little outfits and the backpack and the lunchbox and everything. It's so cute and lots of fun pictures and the pressure to make the little boards about the first day of school. There's so much to it, right? But we also need to be prepared for the hard parts that are coming and know what to do about it when it comes and it hits us and we go, that's what she was talking about, right? So we're going to move into this next section. I want to speak specifically to those of you who are nurses, therapists like me, teachers, educators, social workers, school counselors, doctors, or any other kind of helper. Okay. Because when you go back or when your kids go back to school, this season hits differently for you. For those of you who are teachers, you are not just sending your child back to school. You're also going back to school yourself. And so you're managing your own classroom, getting things set up, your own caseload, your own set of parents that all want the very best for their children, as they should, and students and administration demands, which I hear just continue to get worse and worse. And so you are doing all of that while your own child is also starting a new grade, possibly even going to a new school, probably having a new teacher. And so the emotional labor is doubled and it's all happening at once. And so it can feel like a lot. For those of you who are in healthcare, August and September often bring scheduled changes or new rotations, new residents. That's what we're going through. We just brought on our next class of residents in July. And so everybody's just getting settled in. And if you're in a training environment, there's a lot of shifts and coverage. And so there's a lot of change going on in the clinic. And so the professional season is ramping up at the exact moment that the personal season is demanding everything that you have. And so for you, it also feels like it's just a lot. For all of you listening, there is guilt that comes with being a helper because you can't seem to help your own family in the way that you want to and making sure that they feel taken care of in this transition as much as you might like to, because there's so many other things that you're trying to take care of too. So you know how to support other people through those transitions, and you do it all the time. You do it every single day, but somehow it makes it harder, not easier, to be able to ask for that support that you need for yourself and your family when it comes time. I want to pause real quick to talk about We Are Alma. Y'all know I talk about We Are Alma all the time because I love them. They make the absolute best nursing cover, and it's called the Cocoon, and it's super breathable, which is great for summer. And if you're somewhere like I am in the South where it's going to be hot for several months, you'll appreciate that. But even once it starts to cool off, it's great as a cute little shawl or a scarf. I love mine. It comes in lots of cute colors. I think mine's called Oatmeal. It's like a cream color. And I love it so much. It was great for when I was breastfeeding, and I felt totally comfortable to do that wherever I needed to, no matter who was around. And it's just a really good option. So if you yourself are in that season, you'd want a mom gift to pamper yourself, definitely check them out. Or if you have a friend who's about to have a baby, or you're going to a baby shower or something like that, definitely check them out. They don't just have the nursing cover. They have other fun nursing outfits and jewelry and new mom bundles and all kinds of fun things. Anyways, if you use my code Melissa, MELISSA, you get 15% off your whole order, and that's on top of any sales that they have. And I am an affiliate for them, so I do earn a small commission if you use my link that's down in the show notes, or if you use that code when you check out, but that just helps me keep the show running, and I definitely appreciate your support with that. Okay, let's get back. So we've addressed the fact that it's going to be difficult, that there's a lot going on. It's not going to just be a smooth transition. That's fine. 'Tis life. You're going to be called and pulled in all different directions. You're going to want to go to events and go to new activities and things and try to ask off, or maybe you need to take off because you're sick. Anyways, there's a lot going on. So now that we've named what's actually happening, I want to give you some things that you can actually do to help with that. And I want to be really clear that these aren't tips from, just my productivity hacks. These are real strategies that are grounded in what I know about working moms and what they need and what actually helps them make a difference and how they're feeling and how they're handling stress. And I use a lot of these for myself as well. Okay. So strategy one is to lower the finish line. All right. So the biggest thing that the research revealed is that working moms exhaust themselves trying to reach a finish line that just keeps moving, or a bar that gets higher if you need a different visual. So they thought that kindergarten was supposed to be it, or going back to school was supposed to help with the schedule and the routine and everything. And then it was they can tie their own shoes, or then once they get to middle school, they're more self-sufficient, or then when they get to high school, then they'll be able to drive themselves to things. So there is no finish line. And the sooner that you release yourself from waiting for the season where it all clicks into place, the sooner you can start actually living in the season that you are in. Okay. So this does not mean giving up. It just means that you need to redefine what good enough looks like for you right now, not for the next 10 years, not even for the next 2 years, just for this fall. Okay. What does a successful September look like for your family? Not what Pinterest says is so cute that you have to do. We're not playing comparison games here, trying to define your success next to somebody else. What do you and your family specifically need? And I want you to write that down. Be very clear about what your actual finish line for this season is. What does it mean to be happy with this season? Strategy 2 is to name the mental load out loud. One of the most consistent things that I see in the women I work with is that the mental load is invisible until it becomes unbearable. And so your partner may genuinely not know what this season is costing you because you've never said it to them in concrete terms. And it's not saying that you're overwhelmed, because that's just too easy to dismiss and it's kind of vague. I want you to be very specific and concrete. So tell them, this week I'm managing the school supply list, the aftercare enrollment, the new schedule at work, the vaccine update appointment, the carpool coordination, and figuring out what we're doing on the 3 school holidays in September that fall on days that I cannot take off. And I need help with these things specifically. If you're like me and you have to take work trips and you're going to be gone for part of it, like, talk specifically ahead of time about what is needed and get clear about it. Naming it specifically changes what is possible. And it's not just about getting help from a partner. It's also about really being honest with yourself about how much you're actually carrying, so that you can make real informed decisions about what can stay the same and what needs to change. Strategy 3 is to build one anchor into your morning. So the Forbes article that I read this week had 20 strategies, and most of them were genuinely useful. But I have to be honest that there was one that did stand out to me that, just clinically as a therapist, who recommended having a drop-off ritual. And I thought that was really a nice idea. It's something that you can do that's really small and consistent, that signals to your nervous system that the transition is happening and it's okay. So it doesn't have to be some kind of elaborate thing. It can be something simple, like singing a specific song or having it play on the way to school in the morning, a phrase that you say to your child at the door every single morning, or just a few minutes alone in the car before you go into work. But having that repeatable habit each day kind of signals to your brain we're transitioning and it's helpful. What the research tells us is that rituals reduce that cognitive demand because they give your brain a signal that this moment is handled. And so it's allowed to move on to the next thing without dragging the emotional weight of the drop off into your first meeting or time with a patient of the day. So I just want you to pick one thing and make it the same every single day. And that can be part of your anchor to help you move through the routines in the morning. Strategy 4 is to give yourself permission to feel the resentment. I want to just be very open about the fact that nobody says how frustrating it is and how much resentment there is with the back to school content that you're going to see flooding your social media right now. Okay. There are a lot of working moms who feel resentful in September because the logistics fall on them, resentful that maybe their partner seems unbothered or unaware of everything that's going on, resentful that their job doesn't flex and give them the opportunity to move things around that the way that they need to, resentful that there's not a version of this season where everything fits just right and feels smooth and easy. And so then after that resentment, they feel guilty about having that resentment on top of everything else. I need you to realize that resentment is a signal to yourself. And it's not that you're handling things poorly or some kind of character flaw, but it does tell you that there's something out of balance and there is a need not being met. So the goal isn't to push it down or ignore it. The goal is to get really curious about what it is that it's pointing to and why it's creating friction for you. So ask yourself specifically, what are you resentful about right now? And what would need to change for you for that resentment to ease? And if you can get really clear and honest with yourself about what that is, August is going to feel a whole lot simpler because you're going to be more self-aware. Strategy 5 is to not wait until you are drowning to ask for help. And I know y'all hate, I don't want to ask for help. Okay, whatever. The social worker quoted in the Forbes piece said that self-regulation is not selfish. It is essential. And y'all, I thought I was good at self-regulating, but there's something about becoming a parent that makes you work on this all the time. Working moms and helping professions specifically have a particular tendency to wait until things are at a crisis point before they ask for support. What's ironic is that you know how to help other people navigate hard seasons, and you'll tell them to ask for help, but you will wait until you are completely depleted before you apply any of that to yourself. I don't know why we do this, but we absolutely do it. So I want to challenge you this week or this month, this season, to ask for help before you hit that wall, not after, and not when you're in tears one morning in the middle of the fall because you can't find the permission slip and you're already late and you've not slept properly in 2 weeks. I don't want you to get to the point of crumbling because you didn't ask for help when you needed it or before you felt like you needed it. So ask now before the season starts while you still have enough capacity to be thoughtful about what you will actually need. That's when I want you to be asking for help. All right. So I want to bring this all together. Deep breath. It is a lot. It's heavy. It's okay that it's hard. Being a mom is hard. It's rewarding and it's wonderful, but it is hard, and that's okay. Back to school is hard for working moms, especially working moms in helping professions. And it's hard in ways that nobody warned you about. And it's not because you're doing anything wrong. And it's so much bigger than that. The system just wasn't designed with working moms in mind. And you've been carrying so much more than your share of it, because that's what you've had to do. But the strategies I just shared are a starting point for you, and they can help you lower the finish line, be realistic, name the mental load out loud, build a morning anchor ritual routine, give yourself permission to feel the resentment, ask for help before you hit the wall. Those are the things that you can do. They're simple and specific, and you can implement them and make it happen. But I also want to say this. Sometimes what you need is not just more strategies. Sometimes what you need is one conversation with someone who's going to help you look at your specific situation and figure out what is actually getting in the way, why those strategies don't feel like they're working, and what specifically needs to change. And this is exactly what I offer you in a free 45-minute clarity call. It's a time for just you and me to sit down, 45 minutes on Zoom. We don't have a specific agenda. I don't give generic advice. I just spend that time with you completely focused on what is going on for you and your family specifically. And we figure out what the real obstacles are, what you actually need while you're heading into this next season, and whether there is something that I can help you with going forward or not. So If this episode resonated with you, if you found yourself nodding along or thinking someone finally said it out loud, thank goodness it's not just me, a clarity call might be exactly what you need right now and might be your next best step. You can book one at drmelissawelch.com/book, B-O-O-K. It's totally free to do it. I'm taking my time out of my busy schedule to make that happen. So I do take it seriously. Doesn't take a lot of time to schedule it, but it might be one of the most useful things that you do for yourself as you go into this next season of going back to school. Also, if you found this helpful, share this episode with a working mom who needs it today. I want you to think of just one person in your life right now who would benefit from hearing about how difficult this season is and giving herself permission to struggle with it, and send it to her. Also, make sure you are following along and subscribed wherever you are listening. And if you have the time and you want to give us a rating, that would be awesome too. Anyways, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening. I hope back to school goes awesome for you. But if it's a struggle, just remember you're not alone. It's okay. And give some of these strategies a try to see how it can help. Until next time, take care of yourself and be well.